Duke collapsed. They collapsed. With spot in the national championship on the line, there is no way to sugarcoat it, which is why you just got to kind of rip the Band-Aid off and say it out loud. They collapsed. And everybody has their own view on the collapse, but the collapse is the common part, right? It's funny because of the the job we do here. A lot of people started texting me after the game, and usually in collapses like we watched, right, where you have a big lead and it evaporates and you lose and you feel like you should have won and all these things. There's the moment that you point to, right? A bad loss, a bad missed shot, a bad turnover, a timeout that should have been called, an injury, something. Everybody has their own moment in this one. They were ahead 58-45 with 10 minutes and 31 left. From that point on, Houston went on a 25-9 run. By the way, there was only one field goal scored by Duke over that final 10-31. They were up 14 with 8 minutes and 15 seconds left. They were up 9 with 2 minutes and 15 seconds left. They were up 7 with 1 minute and 15 seconds left. Houston went on a 9-0 run in the final 35 seconds to win the game. Everyone can point to a different one of those spots and say, well, if you catch yourself up 9 with 2:15 left, you shouldn't lose the game. Coaches will all tell you that, right? You should be able to manage the game, make your free throws, make smart decisions, and win the contest. They didn't do it. Credit to Houston, right? Little hat tip. I think, as much of a impressive play by Houston, there were critical errors made by Duke that made it possible. And that's usually how most comebacks are. Jon Scheyer, head coach of Duke, after the game was asked what went wrong down the stretch. This is what he had to say.
Houston's a team that doesn't quit. I mean, they're never going to stop. And so my messaging throughout the whole way with the team was understand this team doesn't go away. So no lead is safe with them. We can talk about not scoring down the stretch, but for me, it's our defense. We give up 42 points in the second half. That's what carried us in the first half. I thought the last segment to close the half was big. We gave them 4 threes, and then some uncharacteristic plays we probably made, and they hit some really tough shots. So for me, I as I reflect in the moment, I look at our defense, and that was disappointing because even if we're not scoring, usually we get stops to get separation.
The blame can go around pretty evenly in this one, and I'll explain why in a second. Maybe outside of Cooper Flagg. Right, when you put up the stats he did, you're the one that made the three. You're the one that blocked the shot. I don't put too much on him, even if that the shot with 10 seconds or less ended up being his and he left it short. But Sion James inbounding, get the ball into somebody who can catch it, hit him in the hands, make smart, decisive decisions. Yikes. Tyrese Proctor missing the front end of a 1-and-1. Yikes. At that point in the game, first of all, if you aren't a great free throw shooter, don't have the ball in your hands. Right? Find somebody who is a great free throw shooter, get the ball in their hands. And if you are going to have the ball in your hands confidently, you have to knock it down. Con Knipple, reverse, right? If you are a 90-plus free throw shooter and you are not running and asking for a handoff, if you are ever considering giving the ball up in those situations, that's something you got to do better at. Kaman Malawash played 21 minutes and had 0 rebounds. He is 7'2". Nobody in the rotation for Houston is taller than 6'8". Yikes. There is enough to spread around. Jon Scheyer, you heard him talk about it right on the defense. Young coach, right? One of those real makes you remember games, right? Oh, you hadn't been, actually it happened a few times, right? Oh, you hadn't been playing like a freshman, so we haven't been acting like you're freshmen. Turns out you're freshmen, right? You're a coach who's in his 3rd year as head coach and had no previous head coaching experience when you took the job. You hadn't been coaching that way, so we hadn't been treating you that way. But there's the reminder right there. I'm going to go back just a little bit here. ACC tournament, Charlotte, right after Duke's first game, which, by the way, was also Jon Scheyer's first game without his right-hand man, Jay Lucas. Jay Lucas, an assistant coach, took the Miami head coaching job right after the regular season, left to go start his Miami responsibilities. He was not on the bench for his first game. So after they first of all won their first game, but it was a chaotic game. Remember, Cooper Flagg got hurt, Malik Brown got hurt.
78-71 against Georgia Tech.
The first half was like a football game. It was so physical. It was very, very strange. I asked him in the post-game scrum about handling all that unusualness without Jay Lucas. And one of the things that stood out to me was Jon Scheyer saying, I still have to coach with my instincts. And that triggered so much this year. Remember when he randomly threw a zone out, right? And they hadn't practiced it. Remember when now I'm just doing the remember when game. Remember when Isaiah Evans wasn't in the rotation at all. He was getting DNP, did not play, coach's decisions. And then as the season went along, he was given more and more and more of a role. I think for the most part this season, Jon Scheyer did an unbelievable job in most situations trusting his instincts, right up until the second half of that loss against Houston over the weekend. That right there is where I went, that didn't feel like he was coaching with instincts. That felt like he was coaching conservatively. He was locked in to dance with who brought you, right? Sion James wasn't having a good day. Kamon Malawash wasn't having a good day. Now, I know those are guys that were massively important to your season this year, but if they're not having a good day, take them out of the game and put someone else in who's having a good day. Caleb Foster was great combative energy in the first half. Didn't play enough in the second half. Patrick Gongba has been really, really good. Didn't play enough in the second half. Down the stretch, or actually I'll go for first half. First half, Jon Scheyer, I talked about it on Friday. The average height of Houston's contributors was a little more than 3 inches shorter than the average height of Duke's contributors. So I was like, maybe you can use the size to your advantage, right? Maybe go down low. First half, Jon Scheyer threw a small ball lineup out there. He had Malawash, Flagg, and Gongba on the bench, and they went on a run. And I went, that's pulling the right strings. Mm-hmm. Second half, it was as if the first half didn't exist. Right? It was as if he didn't just see something work and it didn't go back that way. Now, here's where it's like young coach. Takes a lot of confidence to do something non-traditional in the second half of a game you're winning in the Final Four. Takes a lot to take the veteran off the ball. Takes a lot to take your normal inbounder and say, you're not inbounding it here. You might not even be in the game. Takes a lot, right? You got to be wildly confident. You got to wildly trust your instincts. And I think he did that up until got hairy against Houston. And that's a lesson learned. You got to wear that. You got to answer for it. You got to take, whatever your share of the blame pie is. You got to eat that. And then you have to, kind of be wildly empowered in the future. It was funny because the other thing that was a big topic of conversation for Duke going into the Final Four was this transition of power from Coach K to Jon Scheyer. And so I'm sitting there, and obviously adrenaline running after the game, right? Just because it's Final Four and it was a close game and all that. I'm the only one awake in my house, and I'm on social media. And somebody showed the Gordon Hayward missed half-court shot for Duke's title a handful of years ago, over Butler. And the comment said, has anybody ever understood why he missed this on purpose? Because if you don't remember, in that game, they were up 2, Duke was, and Brian Zubac was at the free throw line, and he had one more free throw coming, and he intentionally missed it. And the question was, you make that shot, even if they get to, set up a play, or even if, they get to take the ball inbounds, you're up 3. Worst case scenario, you're going to overtime. Why would you intentionally miss that? And I was like, that's a great question. Start doing some poking around. You see some of the reports. There was a coaching something or another, a talk that Coach K did soon after that. He said, none of my assistants agreed with me. He said, I had to miss it because I was looking at the momentum. I didn't want to go to overtime with them. I thought they were building momentum and we were waning, and this was our chance to win it and end it now. And I would have rather been a half-court heave than something they had set up for a 3 for – And I thought that's where Jon Scheyer has to get, to where 4 seconds left or whatever it was in the national championship game, all of his assistants are saying, I disagree with you, and you trust your instincts enough to make the move. I felt he was almost coaching in a way that he could easily explain in the second half, when all season he had been, let's let Foster in, right? All season it's been, we're going well with so-and-so on the bench. Let's let them off, like let's throw a zone at him. It's been very whatever he feels necessary. Second half, I think I could have coached it, right? We're going to take the same 5 that have been out there most of the game, and we're going to let them in there. And what inbound play should we run? Our inbound play, the one we always do. That's a brutal way to be at that point in the game. And you're going to have to wear that one. You'll see it in your sleep for a long time.